blessing to be here this morning with you. This morning, my wife and I are going to share. It's actually going to be me. I say my wife and I because we plan these programs together. And as you watch what we share on the screen, as you hear the stories that I tell, and the songs put together in a certain order, you're actually seeing a lot of my wife's heart in the program because she puts a lot of work into planning it, and so that it goes and travels and takes us on a journey. And so if you're blessed by the way it's put together this morning, you can think of her and the blessing that God has given her and the talent to be able to put programs like this together. So when I say my wife and I, we're presenting a program this morning that is, it's just very special to our hearts. And it's the title of the program is what is your purpose in life? Live on purpose. It's a question that we ask ourselves, of course, throughout our lives. It's if you Google what's your purpose, there will be billions, literally billions of results. People are asking this question all the time. Of course, we have Oswald Chambers, who's written a book, The Purpose-Driven Life, in an effort to try to help people find their purpose. But of course, our purpose is different depending on what stage of life we're in, depending on what God has placed us, what situations He's placed us in. This past couple of years, I know a lot of people have probably wondered what life was really going to look like. Heather and I were in that position ourselves. We all have our pandemic story. We were actually freshly out of Florida and heading to Pennsylvania when the pandemic hit. And so it changed the course of our lives for those several months, almost a year of time. We had just finished singing for an evangelistic series in Phoenix, Arizona. Pastor John Bradshaw was preaching his heart out every night. We had rented the Phoenix Convention Center, and we saw hundreds of people make a decision for Jesus at the end of that 21-night series of evangelistic meetings. And I met people that were coming off the street after receiving a mailer in the mail advertising the evangelistic series. I would greet them at the door on night one. I'm the singer for the evangelistic series. Nice to meet you. My name's Scott. What's your name? Tell me your story. How did you find out about these series of meetings? A lot of people were just there because they were curious. And I watched these people 21 nights later going into the waters of baptism with tears running down their face, realizing that God had been chasing them their entire lives. So it was powerful. So it was on that high that we left. We were driving our bus east towards Florida, where we were going to do our winter tours. This is October of 2019. Get to Florida on our way. Actually, we didn't quite get to Florida. On our way to Florida, early part of January, our bus broke down. Our engine decided it didn't want to push anymore. It had 730,000 miles on it, and it was kind of done. So we're in a little town called Scott, Louisiana. Har har. And our bus breaks down. So the tow truck comes to tow our bus to the shop, and it says Scott's Towing Services. It doesn't get more custom than that. The mechanic gave us, of course, the worst news. We've burned out the lower bearings in the engine. He said, we can roll in new bearings, and that's going to cost you about $4,000, and that'll get you maybe 100 miles down the road, maybe 1,000, we don't know. And I said, do it, because we got to go to Florida. We have places to sing at. So they patched it together. We slowly limped our bus all the way to Florida, where my next several months of concerts were going to be. And we get there, and we pull it into a friend's pole barn, and my wife and I together over the next couple months swapped engines in the bus. That's a whole nother sermon. It's a whole nother story for another day. But we did it. Then we're driving up to Pennsylvania in March for another evangelistic series. We are 2 weeks into this evangelistic series with a brand new engine in our bus, excited about what the new year is going to bring. I had 160 events scheduled to sing for General Conference session in Indianapolis, scheduled to do an evangelistic series with the It Is Written team there in Indianapolis. Just before the General Conference session, I was coordinating music for 5 different series in the city. I was scheduled to do 5 different camp meetings that summer. One of them in Alberta, in Calgary, Canada. We're going to go see Banff and Jasper on the way. And then the pandemic really hit home in March in the United States. 2 weeks into our evangelistic series, the conference asked us to shut the series down and close the church until everybody could realize what was really going to happen. And so they did, and our bus was parked outside the Hanover Seventh Adventist Church there in Pennsylvania. No place to go with this brand new engine. Over the next several weeks, we were hoping this would be something that would be go kind of just blow over. I think we all hoped that. And we slowly realized that wasn't going to be the case. And I started receiving phone calls and emails asking to cancel events that we were scheduled for. 160 events in about 3.5 weeks canceled. It Is Written called me. We're going to pull the plug on our evangelistic effort in Indianapolis at this point. And it was tragic. It was tragic. Kind of took our breath away, didn't it? So the head elder of the church knocked on the bus door one day and he said, "Hey guys, listen, I don't know what's going to happen. I know you guys are kind of stranded here. So feel free to leave your bus parked here as long as you want to." They had a full hookup for us, water, sewer, power. We could live there as long as we needed to. He said, "Here's some keys to the church. This is your new 15,000 square foot home until this is all over." And so we took those keys to that church, and every Sabbath my wife would get the girls in their Sabbath dresses. I would get in my Sabbath suit. My wife would get in her Sabbath dress. And we'd walk the 20 feet into that church. And we'd find the Sabbath school room that my girls were accustomed to going to. And I would lead them in song service, and my wife would lead them in their study lesson. And we had Sabbath school every Sabbath. By ourselves. It was just us. But it felt as normal as it could possibly feel to my kids. So that's what that looked like. I worked in construction on and off that year, just waiting for things to ease up and clear up. So of course this year, here we are in 2022, the first time I'm really actively booking concerts again, both in the morning and in the evening. Tonight I'll be at the Forest Grove Church. This is our last set of events here in Oregon. We've been here 10 weeks, singing of course for the meetings at the Sunnyside Church and doing concerts in various places. And this is it. Tomorrow morning we head to Idaho and then on to Colorado, then Kansas City, and then Michigan. We'll be home for 6 weeks before we go back on tour with It Is Written. I sing for It Is Written. I'm an affiliate musician for them. So when Pastor John needs somebody to sing for an event, they call me. I'm not one of their employees. I just contract in, but I love what they do and love what they stand for. So I've been doing this for 11 years with them. But the rest of the time, I give concerts and programs like I'm doing this morning. This is our jam. This is our passion. And so my prayer is this morning that you'll be blessed by what you're seeing and hearing. As we share our testimony, you'll be encouraged that God has given you a purpose. Facebook. Facebook's a little scary, by the way. It knows everything. If you, 3 years ago, liked your friend's Bible verse that he posted, Facebook remembered. And when we said, "Hey, Facebook, we want to send this ad advertising Hope Awakens to people who have a remote spiritual interest," Facebook said, "Hey, this guy liked a post from 3 years ago. I think he's got spiritual interest, and you got a sponsored ad in your feed that said Hope Awakens is coming to a Facebook Live feed near you." And as a result of that evangelistic series going virtual, we have connected people with pastors locally, and we have almost 3,600 people now baptized. That's a wild number. That's the United States of America. 3,600 people are baptized here as a result of that. So God is on the move in spite of everything that tries to get in his way. Evangelism never can be canceled. And I'm going to share with you a brief video here before we get started. You'll get to see what It Is Written is doing behind the scenes. It's not just a guy with a New Zealand accent on TV preaching. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes. And I think you'll be blessed as you watch this. The deacons had passed out a little interest card. You'll see a picture of me next to Pastor John. That is simply so that you can, if you fill that in and you give it to me afterwards, I'll take it to Jocelyn. She's our development coordinator at It Is Written. She'll put your name into a little database, and they'll send you our magazine. We send it out twice a year. Last year, we only sent it out once. So you'll get a magazine once or twice a year. It's called Impressions. And you can open it up, and you can see what It Is Written is doing. This is your NAD ministry. And if you see a project in there that speaks to your soul, you can be a part of that and support that project. So that's what those are for. feel free to let me know if you have any questions about what It Is Written is doing. If you're a medical professional, by the way, we need people to go on some mission trips to Bolivia this fall. So let me know if you're interested in doing something like that. Dentist, nurse, medical professional, we need people. We're setting up a big clinic down there. So if that sounds like that's something you want to be interested in, let me know. But I think you'll be blessed as you watch this. See if I can get it to play. Come on, you can do it. We're all having technological problems this morning. It's just going to be that kind of day. Okay. Let's try this again. We'll get this. It's just how it is with tech. It's just how it is.
For over 60 years, It Is Written's mission has been to reach as many people as possible with the gospel of Jesus Christ. From TV and radio programming in English, Spanish, and American Sign Language to resources such as our Bible study guides, It Is Written continues to redefine modern evangelism. We've expanded our evangelistic resources to make it easier for you than ever before to share the gospel with others. We've also launched multiple humanitarian projects that have opened hearts to the gospel like never before. It Is Written's Eyes for India gives sight to the blind, and Mission Mongolia provides free medical care to thousands of Mongolians. People who would never have been interested in the gospel are picking up a Bible in their own language and learning about God's incredible love for the very first time. Our humanitarian projects, our television and internet programming, and our evangelistic resources are all designed around one common goal: to see people make lasting decisions for Jesus. We see those decisions being made every year as we conduct evangelistic series all over the United States and in countries such as Zimbabwe, Italy, Australia, Moldova, Peru, Colombia, and Cuba. Join us and get involved today.
A lot of good things happening on the evangelism front. And it's fun. I get to take my family with me wherever I go. That's probably one of the biggest blessings and gifts we get by living in a bus. My wife, Heather, my two girls, Emma and Aubrey, they're 6 years old, 4 years old. They have been a lot of inspiration behind why I do what I do for a living. You know, my wife has always encouraged me from day one to follow wherever God leads me, and she always has said, I will follow wherever God leads you. My kids were born in hospitals, came home to the bus. It's really all they know, so when they see your house, they wonder where your wheels are. Having kids, I think, affects a lot of the way that you look at life, the way you look at God. I look at Jesus as more of a parent in my life than ever before. I think if he were sitting next to us right here, right now, and he were face to face talking to us, you know, he knows what your week has been like. He knows what your month has been like. He knows what our year has been like. And I think if you had a rough week, he would just simply pull you in close and he'd say, come, lean in. I will work you through whatever it is you're working through. Because I love you, you're my child, and I care. And that's what this song celebrates. It was written by a friend of mine years ago in Michigan. It's simply entitled, Come. Come when your heart is heavy laden, feeling like the joy is fading. Just come. Come, believing everything I've told you. Here are arms that long to hold you. So just come. Come and leave behind the mask you're hiding. Here is someone to confide in. I know what you've done. tell me everything you're hoping. The Father loves a heart that's open. So just come. I didn't die so you could try to save yourself. I know who you are, don't try to be somebody else. Come, believing everything I've told you. Here are arms that long to hold you. Won't you come? Come, and come into the joy of living, knowing that your sin's forgiven. Oh, just come. Just come. I've often said that there's no part of our life that really has been untouched by being parents. It's the coolest thing we've ever done, my wife and I, is become moms and dads. It's changed the way I see Heather. You know, when you watch your wife carry babies for 9 months, 2 different times, and then you watch her give birth twice, you have a whole new respect for her. It's true, I do have a whole new respect. I don't know how my wife lived through those experiences. I don't know how women live through it, but they do. I have a whole new way of looking at her in awe, just amazed at what she's willing to go through for her kids. I have a whole new perspective on God, it's true, and on myself. Can't tell you how many times at the end of the day I have looked up to the heavens and said, Father, is this the amount of patience that you have to have with me? During the meetings in Sandy, in Sunnyside, I keep getting Sunnyside and Sandy mixed up. In Sunnyside, actually every evangelistic series I end up singing for, I'm usually gone, for almost a month. And when I say gone, my family sees me until around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe 3:30. And then I have to get in my car and I have to drive to the location. And then we have to get ready with camera work and sound check and all the stuff they have to do. And then I sing for this, the opening of the evangelistic meeting. And then after the preacher's done, I sing for the close. And then I stay by and I interact with the guests afterwards. And that's just how it goes. In the case of Sunnyside, I wasn't home until 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I'd leave at 3:30, 4 in the afternoon. My kids they would go to bed. I wasn't there. They would have dinner. I wasn't there. And they're used to it. They're used to having dad home to help tuck them in. That's my job. I tuck them in every night. My wife and I all sing to them. We have a routine. And so they understand that when there's an evangelistic meeting and a series that I'm singing for, that dad's just not going to be around for that routine for that period of time. And it's hard, but we just do it because it's part of what you do in the name of evangelism. It's important to us. That's our tradition. But when I get ready to leave the bus, my girls will always say, Dad, when you come home, you have to kiss us. That's their thing. And I've always told them, I said, you guys don't even know. You're completely crashed when I get home. You don't even know. I kiss you, you don't move. Every morning they ask me, Dad, did you kiss me last night? Yeah, I did. It matters to them. And I'll walk in the bus and I'll see them in their bunk beds and I can just barely see in the light of my cell phone screen. And it doesn't matter how naughty your kids were that day, they're angels when they're sleeping. And so many times I've bent over them and I've just said, God, please just save my kids. Save my kids in spite of me. I'm new to this. They don't come with instruction manuals. God, just save them. I've often wondered as I'm staring at my children that my heart is bursting with love for them. God, is this how much you love me? And he's always quick to remind me, I love you more. In fact, those beautiful girls you're looking at, I love them more than you love them. They were his kids first, weren't they? My relationship with God has very much been a parent-child relationship for many years. I believe that the dynamic that exists when you're a child in your home, it has a lot to do with who you become as an adult. That's psychology 101. If you grew up in a nuclear, copacetic, healthy family dynamic with Christian parents, a mom and a dad that loved each other, then that's what was modeled to you, and generally, as a general rule, you tend to build healthy relationships throughout the rest of your life. That was God's plan for the family unit. You make friends, you build healthy relationships with your friends. You grow a little older and you meet that special someone and you build a healthy relationship with your spouse under the blessing of God and marriage. You get a little older yet and you have children and you build a healthy relationship with your kids because that's what was modeled to you growing up. And then you can build a healthy relationship with God. But Satan, in his effort to divide and conquer, he starts with the family unit. This is what he does. If I can divide the family unit, he says, then I can wreck everything God has planned for them for the rest of the generations that follow suit. My brother and I grew up in a family dynamic where our home was broken multiple times. In fact, it's been tradition in my family, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, I don't know how many generations, aunts, uncles. Divorce in my family dynamic is so common, it's not even funny. And I realized early on as just a 12-year-old boy, I remember laying in bed one night and saying, God, I don't want this for me. Don't even let me get married if this is my future. I said that. I had this conversation with God, this long one. I begged him, please give me something different someday. Now, what do 12-year-old little boys know? Not much. I just knew that what was being modeled wasn't healthy. So here's how God answered that prayer for me. He began putting people in my life that helped me to reset my default setting. Because the problem is that if you don't, then you end up building unhealthy relationships with your friends, and then you get older and you meet somebody and you build an unhealthy relationship with your spouse. If you don't reset that default setting, you end up building an unhealthy relationship with your kids, and the cycle continues. And you can build an unhealthy relationship with God. It's true. I've done it. So you have to reset that default setting, and you got to do it quick. And so God began putting men in my life who showed me what it was like to be a good husband. He began putting couples in my life who showed me what it was like to have a healthy, God-fearing marriage. He began putting parents in my life who showed me what it was like to be good parents. And over time, as these people and these mentors influenced me in those formative years, my default setting was changed. I began to experience a new normal. I began to long to be better and to break the cycle right here in this generation. My wife and I are going to celebrate 13 awesome years this fall. We've already broken the cycle. 13 years going on 50. It's been pretty cool. I'm going to tell you this, if you can live in a 40-foot tour bus pretty much all year with your spouse, you're doing pretty good. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me, actually. I'm grateful that God has chosen this generation, has chosen us to break this cycle. It's what he does. It's powerful. One of the things I try to remember is that we are kids. We are his kids. And he desires our happiness and our goodness more than anybody does. And so just as I want my kids to grow up and have a purpose in their lives, and I want my kids to grow up and be happy and contented and fulfilled, I want them to grow up and work for Jesus. He wants the same for us. And we can't ever outgrow that. You know, those of you who are parents, you've told me many times, oh man, once you're a mother, you're always a mother. Once you're a dad, you're always a dad. I tell my kids all the time, you know, you're daddy's little girls. You always will be. Dad, I'm 6. I'm not a little girl anymore. You know what? Just between you and me and the Sandy Church, you're going to be my little girls forever. Forever. You're going to be daddy's girls forever. You know, when they're finally 40 and finally allowed to date, they're still going to be my kids. They don't outgrow it, right? You can't outgrow your parents. We cannot outgrow God. We can't. It's true. That means when my kids need me, I'm there for them. When we need God, he's there for us. It means when my kids fall and they scrape their knee, I can pick them up and I can hold them until the pain subsides. When we fall on our journey, Jesus can pick us up and hold us until the pain subsides. It's a powerful microcosmic relationship that we have that represents our connection with our kids. Those of you who are parents, I think you'll be blessed as you hear this simple little song. You'll be able to relate to it. Those of you who have grown up with a dynamic that sounds very familiar to mine, as you listen to this song, just take a moment and celebrate the relationship you can have with your ultimate daddy in heaven. I was there when you drew the breath of life, yeah. I could hear your voice the first time that you cried. And though you couldn't see me, I was very near. There is something now that I want you to hear. You will always be a child in my eyes. When you need some love, my arms are open wide. And even as you're growing old, I hope you'll realize you will always be a child in my eyes. And I was there the first time that you prayed, and I heard all those promises, oh, that you made. When you fell before me, crying, Father, I have sinned, I picked you up and I held you close again. 'Cause you will always be a child in my eyes. And when you need some love, my arms are open wide. Even as you're growing old, I hope you'll realize you will always be a child in my eyes. Yes, you will always be a child in my eyes. When I held my girls for the first time, I'll never forget it. Especially Emma. She's the one who made us parents for the very first time, and it was pretty life-altering holding her, realizing that I wasn't going to give her back to somebody, but I was actually going to take her home. You know, her arrival was a little bit chaotic, I will say. I was scheduled to sing in Texas during that time. My wife and I had just arrived in Texas in 2015, around January of 2015, and I was scheduled to sing for the state evangelist there, Linwood Spangler. He would do 4 or 5 evangelistic series a year, and I would sing for his series and travel to different cities within Texas. I was also doing my own concerts, and in addition, the Texas conference was hiring me to do sermons and preach at churches that didn't have pastors, so I was kind of a floating pastor throughout the state. We were very busy. It was a good thing. So my wife, soon after we arrived, we found out we were pregnant with our first. We were excited. We'd been planning this for 5 years. It was a blessing. It's a dream come true. And so she began to establish a relationship with a local OBGYN and at the local hospital, not too far from Keene, Texas, where our bus was parked. We didn't have any friends there. We didn't know anybody at that time. In fact, the only person we knew was the lady who ran the front desk at the RV park, sweet 80-year-old lady, Miss Annette. She was a sweet Adventist lady who attended the local church in Cleburne. They actually had me sing at her church. She said, here's my cell phone. If you ever need anything while you guys are here, you just let me know. I want you to be comfortable and happy. Thanks for coming to the Texas conference. So for the next 9 months, we just toured and I sang, and we saw God bless in mighty ways there in Texas. As Heather's due date came closer, the doctor said, listen, I don't want you going on long trips in the car anymore, just because of blood clots and some other stuff, so I just want you to rest at home. You're kind of coming up on your due date. And as it got closer, there was a morning, Friday morning, October 2, I remember Heather woke up around 5 a.m. and she was having contractions. And so we went to the hospital. We had already toured the labor and delivery center beforehand just to kind of familiarize ourselves with the process. We took her there, and they admitted her for a couple hours, and they did some tests, and they put all those little, whatever they call them, those wires on her belly to test those contractions, and you could watch them on the screen, and it's pretty cool. They said, listen, these are Braxton Hicks contractions. They're a little different than the real ones. They probably hurt like the real ones, and I'm sorry, the doctor said, but you're not ready to have a baby yet. And that was kind of a little bit of a letdown, right? But the truth is, she wasn't. She was not even close to being ready to have a baby. Her body was just practicing. And so he said, listen, you're going to go home, and you're going to rest. And he says, maybe we'll see you next week. And she said, am I going to have these contractions for this? She says, so we've had people have these Braxton Hicks contractions for weeks. But he says, I just need you to go home and rest, and then you start timing those. When they start happening within a certain time period, then let's talk. I had asked him, I said, is there a chance she's going to have this baby this weekend? Because I knew on Sabbath, the next day, I'd have to go somewhere and preach and sing, and then I'd have like an evening concert, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't leaving my wife when she was going to have a baby. And he said, no, he assured me she's not going to have this baby tomorrow. She may be Monday, but she's just not even close. Her body's not ready to have a baby. It's her first. It'll take a while. I said, okay. So Sabbath morning, early in the morning, I wake up. I'm scheduled to sing and preach in the Jefferson Church, Jefferson Academy Church in East Texas. If you know Texas, you know that's a 3.5-hour drive from Cleburne, where our bus was parked. Obviously, I couldn't take her with me. I had the only vehicle, and so I was a little nervous about it, but my wife assured me, I'm going to be okay. You heard what the doctor said. Go do your thing. They're expecting you. It's hard when you have to try to get a sermon concert program flipped around, and you have to throw in a pastor at the last minute. It's hard. So I left. I went to the Jefferson Church. I set up my system. I was singing at the piano. My phone is always sitting there on the piano ready to go. My wife and I sometimes will text each other during a program. I'm in the middle of a song, and I get this text message, my water broke. So I immediately got up, and I said to this church, guys, I'm sorry, but my wife just texted me, and she's having a baby, and I got to get to Cleburne right now. And I walked out of that church to a standing ovation. It's the only one I'd ever gotten in my life. True story. It's all about the babies. I got in the truck, and I started driving to Cleburne. At that point, my wife called me on the phone, and she was pretty upset. She was crying. My wife is a pretty level-headed girl. She's just really even keel. So the fact that she was pretty exasperated, pretty upset, and crying on the phone, that was serious to me. She said, listen, I can't do this without you. This wasn't part of the plan. Like, just a few hours ago, you told me I could leave. She said, I need you to get here. You're my rock. Please get here. And I'm like, I'm doing everything I can, baby. I'm getting there. You just hang tight. I ended up talking to the charge nurse on the phone, and she said, your wife's going to have this baby in the next 20 minutes, so I don't think you're going to make it. And I was like, you guys are the ones that told me just a matter of hours ago that she wasn't going to have this baby until next week. So I don't know who to believe at this point. All I know is I want to be there. I dreamt about this moment for 9 months. As soon as we found out it was a little girl, there's a little part of me that goes, oh, I'm going to have a daddy's girl. I can't wait to greet you, Emma. And so I'm driving down the highway, and I get this idea. I'm going to call Texas Highway Patrol. They call them DPS, Department of Public Safety. Called them up. Dispatch, this woman with a southern drawl, answers. I said, listen, I know this is not an emergency by your standards. Okay, I understand, but my wife is having a baby in Cleburne. We're not from here. She's alone. Miss Annette, by the way, she had called her. Remember, Miss Annette, how you said if we ever need you, okay, we can call you? I'm calling you. I'm having a baby. Can you take me to the hospital? She was playing the organ in church that Sabbath. She got up, ran out of the church. I think there are people that to this day don't know why. She went and got Heather and took her to the hospital. So I'm telling dispatch, listen, my wife is at the hospital. She's alone. She's having this baby, and I need to get there. And so the lady put me on hold for a minute, and she came back. She said, listen, any other day of the week, I would send an officer to escort you. We can do that. We've done that in situations like this. She says, but I can't today. My state troopers are running security for a football game. I can't. I have nobody extra that I can have do this for you. She says, here's what I did. I did a radio bulletin on the radio for all the state troopers that are along the interstate across the 3 counties you're going to cross on the way to Cleburne. They have a description of your truck, they have your license plate, and they have your story. And she said, they're not going to bother you. So just get there and get there safe. I'm the only person in the country that has that story, I bet. True story. So I got there, and I get to the elevator. I mean, I did it in probably an hour and a half. You can do the math on that. But I get to the elevator. I punch in floor 7, and the elevator doors on the 7th floor open up to the waiting room in the labor and delivery department. And the word had gotten around the waiting room that there was a guy in a suit trying to make it in time to be there for his baby being born. And so the nurses had said, if you see this guy, you got to let us know because we're going to try to get him in the room right away. And it's just this Texas hospitality. And so I go bursting through the elevator doors to my second standing ovation. And there's a couple nurses there to grab me, take me through the double set of locked doors into labor and delivery, and take me to my wife's room where she has not yet had the baby. Can you believe that? Oh. Women have a lot more control in situations like that than they realize. So I was able to be there to see my daughter enter the world. I was, of course, on an adrenaline rush, and my wife, of course, had her own adrenaline rush because she's going through the process of having a baby, which is incredibly traumatic. I had no idea. Wow. And then we find out that, they're monitoring Emma's heart rate, they're monitoring her oxygen level, and there's a little dip in it, just a little dip, nothing serious, but serious enough. They called in an emergency room pediatrician who came up. He's specialized to deal with this kind of stuff, realized her umbilical cord's wrapped around her neck. It's far more common than I ever realized. He said, it's nothing to panic about. He says, I just got to work with you. I got to work with your physician. We're going to work together, and we're going to make sure this is a healthy delivery. And so he did, and they did what they do, and I just stood by and watched, and my wife did the most heroic things she could ever do. And Emma arrived, and I got to hold my baby for the first time. They took care of Mom for a few minutes. They do this cool thing now. They say, hey, Mom, if you opt to do this, if you want to do this, instead of giving you baby right away, if you're okay with this, we're going to take care of you. There's some stuff you got to do after Mom's given birth. And so we want to, if you're okay with it, give your baby to Dad for just a few minutes while we take care of you. You've just been through something traumatic. Let's take care of you. Let's let you catch your breath, and then we'll give you your baby, if you want to do that. And my wife said, absolutely, that's fine with me. And so after Emma was born, they said, Dad, take your shirt off. And I said, why? And they said, we want you to be skin to skin with your baby. You're going to do this. You're going to be skin to skin. Okay. So I ripped my shirt off. They gave me Emma. I was just holding her. That's powerful. That's a powerful drug. The pediatrician that was there helping deliver her, the emergency room guy, he had to take her away after a little while just to do some tests on her, and they had to wake her up every couple hours throughout the rest of the night. Eventually, my wife fell asleep, bless her heart. Eventually, Emma, after her first feeding, she was able to fall asleep, and I was just holding her, and it's midnight, and the lights are dimmed, and just the beeping of the machines, and I'm looking at my tiny 6-pound and some change daughter, and I'm in awe, and I can't help. She's hours old, and I cannot help but look at her, and I'm thinking to myself, who are you going to be someday? Whose life are you going to touch? Because I'm praying right now that God has a plan for you, Emma. And if I pray that prayer, he's going to answer that prayer. And you're going to be somebody someday. Someday, someone's going to be in the kingdom of heaven because of your influence. You're just a helpless baby right now, but someday, you're going to have a purpose. I was thinking that right then and there. She had just been born. As parents, you want your kids to do something with their lives. You do. You don't say to your kids, hey, go have a blast, bob and weave, roll with the punches, good luck out there. It's a wild ride. I should hope we don't say that as Christian parents. I should hope that we sit down with our children and say, God has a purpose for your life. Find it, live it, do it until he comes. God looks at us the same way. He's formed you in the womb. He's formed me in the womb. It says it in the Bible, his promise. I formed you in the womb. And even as he's forming us in the womb, he's saying, I have a purpose for you. I have a plan for your life. You're going to do some amazing things for the kingdom. I want to show you a video before I sing this next song. It's powerful. There was a church in Texas, and they wanted to get the spiritual pulse of this city. This church is located in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, right? It's a big cosmopolitan area, a lot of different people there. And what they wanted to do is say, hey, how can we as a church be effective? Thank you. He knows I was going to go sailing over that in a minute. You'd have remembered this forever if I did that. How can we be an effective church in our community? Churches are supposed to be hospitals. Have you guys heard that recently? That's a meme going around Facebook right now. Your church is a hospital. It's for the sick and the people that's true. How can your church be an effective hospital if we don't triage? And what I mean by that is if my wife and I are hiking, we were hiking over at government camp not too long ago in the snow at Mount Hood. If I sprained my ankle, I fell to the ground. If my wife looked at me and said, something's wrong with Scott, I'm going to give him CPR, would that have been helpful? No. But if I'd gotten shot and she's putting an ace bandage on my ankle, that's not helpful either, right? So we have triage. Even your kids, Daddy, I hurt myself. Where does it hurt? Let me see. And once you know what's going on, then you can start to formulate a plan to address it. And Jesus did that. He found people what their needs were, okay? The man with the withered hand, okay, that man, yes, he needed to hear the gospel, but after his hand was healed. Yes, Mary needed to hear the gospel after her heart was healed. It's true. Yes, the disciples needed to be trained to lead people to Jesus, but after they themselves were led to Jesus. And so there's an order to things. And so this church in Texas said, listen, we want to get the spiritual pulse of our city. So we're going to send people out and we're going to start interviewing them. We're going to ask them questions. And as a pastoral team, we're going to sit down and we're going to watch these interviews and watch what people are saying. And we're going to formulate a plan to reach our community with Jesus. It's cool. One of the questions they asked was, what is your purpose in life? And this series of interviews is the result of that question being asked.
What is your purpose in life?
I don't think I have one.
What is your purpose in life?
I haven't figured that out yet.
Have you ever thought about it before?
Nope.
You've never thought about it?
Nope. Not at all. I haven't spent any time on it.
You haven't spent any time thinking about what your purpose is in life?
Not recently. Should I be?
Well, you tell me. It's your life.
No, I haven't spent any time on that. I just go day to day. That's just it.
What is your purpose in life?
I really haven't put that much thought into it.
Why not?
I don't know. I'm just trying to have a good time.
What is my purpose in life?
You got to give me time to think about
Okay,
that
think
one.
about it.
Get through it. Don't kill anybody.
Just keep doing until I get it over with.
Just be happy. It's just to be happy.
I think that I should have fun and be happy.
To be happy and make my family happy and my boyfriend happy and just be happy.
I don't really feel that I'm here to do anything in particular. I mean, it's not like I think that I'm destined to do something or be someone or something like that. I'm just kind of going through the routines, you know, as society's laid it all out for us.
I feel like I have a purpose to help preserve, conserve the beauties of nature,
Hopefully leave some sort of legacy.
to contribute to the betterment of mankind.
Tell me what your purpose in life is.
Go to work, go home, live. You gotta, I got a purpose. Everybody got a purpose on earth, but I ain't found my purpose out yet.
To live a long life and to be prosperous.
What's my purpose in life? My purpose in life is to be successful.
To be successful and to lead a happy, fulfilling life.
To provide well for my family.
I want to be a really powerful woman, build my career built in financial area.
Do you think that you have a purpose?
Not necessarily. I think purpose is just to do what you want to do. Go out and live life and have fun.
Yeah, I think everybody has a purpose in life. And what would that purpose be for you? I'm not sure yet. What is your purpose in life?
My purpose in life is basically to live the best life I can and to help others and be there for my friends and my family.
How do you know that that's your purpose? Where does that come from?
It comes from within my heart and my head.
How do you know having fun is your purpose?
I don't know. I mean, that's just personal philosophy. Get it from what I think, that's it.
How do I know this is my purpose? I mean, what kind of question is that?
Boy, I think you got to start drinking before you talk about that, really.
What is your purpose in life?
My purpose in life, I am deeply rooted in the Christian faith, and my purpose would be to glorify God in all that I do.
Do you have a purpose in life?
No.
Have you ever thought about it before?
Guess I've thought about it a little, but it scares me, so I don't.
What do you mean it scares you?
I don't know. I just like to more concern myself with living day to day, having fun.
And that's it.
That's pretty much it.
I mean, yeah, more or less, we're just going through the motions here, and, you know, you do what you feel like doing. I don't think there's anything really pushing or pulling us in any direction. And, you know, it ends whenever your life ends.
It ends whenever your life ends. That's what a lot of people truly believe. That's our mission field right there. That's the spiritual pulse of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Have you ever wondered what Jesus feels in his heart when he hears people say they have no purpose in life? After what he did on the cross, a lot of people will be celebrating that next week. But how many of us are living a life every day that celebrates what Jesus did for us? Because he died, because he lived a sinless life, because of his victory, then all of a sudden we have a purpose. If he didn't accomplish that, we'd have no reason to live. I want to sing a song that I've sung thousands of times. And I just seem to lose myself in this song even now. It's a song you've heard many times, I'm sure. You know, we're reminded in inspired writings that it's good to dwell on the closing scenes of Christ's life every so often, just so we don't forget. So while this song plays, my prayer is that you'll get lost in it too, that you'll have a brief but very real revival in your heart of appreciation for the fact that Jesus gave you a purpose. Walking on the road to Jerusalem, the time had come to sacrifice again. My two small sons, they walked beside me on the road. The reason that they came was to watch the Lamb. Oh, Daddy, Daddy, what will we see there? There's so much that we don't understand. So I told them of Moses and of Father Abraham. And then I said, dear children, watch the Lamb. For there will be so many in Jerusalem today. And we must be sure the Lamb doesn't run away. And then I told them of Moses and of Father Abraham. And then I said, dear children, watch the Lamb. When we reached the city, I knew something must be wrong. There were no joyful worshipers and no joyful worship songs. I stood there with my children in the midst of angry men. And then I heard the crowd cry out,
crucify him. Oh, we tried to leave the city, but we could not get away. Forced to play in this drama part I did not wish to play. Why upon this day were men condemned to die? And why were we standing here where soon they would pass by? I looked and said, even now they come. The first one cried for mercy, the people gave him none. Oh, the second one, he was violent, and he was arrogant and loud. I still can hear his angry voice as he was screaming at the crowd. And someone said, there's Jesus. And I scarce believed my eyes. A man so badly beat that he barely looked alive. Blood poured down his body from the thorns upon his brow, running down the cross and falling to the ground. Oh, I watched him as he struggled. I watched him as he fell. The cross came down upon his back, and the crowd began to yell. In that moment I felt such agony. In that moment I felt such loss. And then a Roman soldier grabbed my arm and screamed, carry his cross. At first I tried to resist him, then his hand reached for his sword. And so I knelt and took the cross from the Lord. I placed it on my shoulders and I started down the street. The blood that he'd been shedding was running down my cheek. They led us to Golgotha. They drove nails deep in his feet and hands, and yet upon that cross I heard him pray, Father, forgive them. Oh, never have I seen such love in any other eyes. Into thy hands I commit my spirit. and then he died. I stood for what seemed like years. I'd lost all sense of time. And then I felt two tiny hands. They were holding tight to mine. My children stood there weeping. I heard the oldest say, Father, please forgive us. The lamb ran away. Oh, Daddy, Daddy, what have we seen here? There's so much that we don't understand. So I took them in my arms, and we turned and faced the cross. And then I said, dear children, watch the Lamb. If anyone had a purpose in life, it was Jesus. He was driven to complete his purpose. He never let anyone distract him. He never wasted a moment of time. He did something amazing. He didn't just come to be an example of a sinless life. He could have just done that. He didn't come just to die on the cross in our place. He could have done that in and of itself. But every step of the way to Calvary, Jesus was relieving the suffering of humanity. It's what he did. So many times in my life, I've just felt like I was a little too busy for people. I was too busy just with life. And if anybody could say that they were a little busy, it would be Jesus. After all, he had a world to save. But every step of the way to Calvary, he sees a man with a withered hand. He can't help himself. He has to heal him. Jesus these are his kids. He knows he didn't create that hand to be withered. He sees someone who is blind and he heals that person. Jesus has a front row seat to what the curse of sin looks like on his kids, and it breaks his heart. And in his love and compassion, he heals us. Mary has no one to defend her. Her heart is broken in millions of pieces. And Jesus says to her, I'm not condemning you either. I'm not going to condemn you. In fact, go and sin no more. I love you. And Jesus begins the process of healing Mary's heart and putting it back together because he's the fix-it God. That's what he does. And he and Mary become the tightest of friends. That's who Jesus was. That was his purpose. Relieve the suffering of my kids. I want to pattern my life after that. In some level, God sometimes calls us to do hard things. He says the sacrifice you're going to make in your life for the call
is going to be hard. I can tell you stories of missionary friends of mine who go over to seas to be missionaries. They have their new infant baby. They're in Africa. They're doing the work that God has called them to do. It's been burning in their hearts to share the gospel with people in Africa who don't know about it. And their infant baby contracts malaria and passes away. What a sacrifice. I couldn't do it. Sometimes God says, I want you to do hard things for me. And I'm going to share with you a video as I close and I wrap this up with our last two songs. I'm going to sing a song that goes along with this video. And then we're going to close with the song that we're going to sing together. And this portrayal, this father and son you're going to see, some of you have seen these guys before. They're doing amazing things. God called them to do hard things. He says, you guys are going to inspire the world. It's a microcosmic example of his relationship with us. God calls you to do hard things, but he's behind you, pushing you every step of the way. That's what he does. But sometimes he says, I want you to do something for me, and we don't think it's a big deal, and so we easily can miss that purpose. We can miss these little divine appointments because they just don't seem significant. But they are. So when I ask you, what is your purpose in life? When we contemplate that thought, it's not just a thought that's abstract, and it's just we talk about it, and we have committees. Let's find our purpose. Let's lead people to Jesus. What does that look like? What does that look like on a daily basis in life? I'm going to tell you what it looked like to my family. 1983, Allentown, Pennsylvania. My mom and dad lived in a little apartment there with my brother and I. They were pretty poor at that time. Later on, God blessed them pretty tremendously. But at that time, they were poor. So poor, they lived in this cheap little apartment complex that had no laundry service in it, so they had to drive out to a laundromat. Every week, my mom would drive to a laundromat and do laundry. My mom and dad had no strong spiritual upbringing, at least in terms of Christianity. My dad was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. The way he saw it, there was probably a God out there somewhere, but he didn't care about him, and he's pretty sure that God didn't care about him. So it was kind of a mutual agnosticism. That's what he thought. My whole family on my mom's side of the family, they're all from India. If you follow the history of India, you'll know that it was a British colony at one time, and then a lot of Indians moved from England to British-controlled Guyana when Guyana was British-controlled. They worked in the cane fields there for a while, and then they came to London, and then from London they emigrated to the United States. That's the path my family took. They're from the province of Bihar up in northern India. So my mom grew up Muslim. It's all she knew was Islam. Knew nothing about Christianity whatsoever, wasn't interested. In fact, when she was in her 20s, she became instantly the black sheep of the family because she said, listen, I'm leaving London, I'm going to the United States, and I'm leaving Islam behind. I want nothing to do with Allah. She said, if God is this exacting and this much of a tyrant, I can never please him, and I'm going to quit trying. So she leaves the family, she leaves the culture, she leaves the religion. Comes to New York City in her 20s, meets my dad. Fast forward to 1983, Allentown, Pennsylvania. As my mom sat in that laundromat, she did what she always does. It's her routine. She goes to the magazine rack after she's put her clothes in the wash, and she goes to grab either time or people, something to pass the time as the clothes are being washed. When she goes to the magazine rack on this particular day in 1983, there are no magazines left in the magazine rack. There was no one else in the laundromat at the time. She's not sure if the janitor had cleared the magazines in preparation to put the new set out. To this day, we don't know why the magazine rack was empty for the first time in all the time she's gone there. But it was, with the exception of one religious book stuck in there. So out of sheer boredom, my mom picked up that religious book and began to leaf through it. The more she read, the more weirded out she got. There's some strange stuff in here, she said. Started learning about the Sabbath. Wow. Kind of thought that was a Jewish thing. But it's talking about it in the Bible. It's talking about it in terms of Christianity. And she's going through her head and going, I know everybody that I know as a Christian goes to church on Sunday. But she's here reading this, and there's these Bible verses and these scripture references, and she's going, this is strange. She starts to read about what happens when we die. You know, in Islam, it's a little bit of a confusing situation. I'll be honest. It's you know, when someone passes away and they're Muslim, if you're a good Muslim, you're going to try to bury the body within 24 hours. That's what they do. So if we get a phone call that a family member has passed away, I mean, it doesn't matter where we are or what we're doing, my wife and I turn around, head to the airport, and get on a plane. Because otherwise we're going to miss the funeral. And that's really unacceptable in the family culture. And then for 40 days after that person has passed away, as many people as possible around the world are supposed to pray them into a higher level of heaven. The more people praying, the harder you pray. You just pray, God, please recognize their works, recognize the things they did on the earth. They gave this much money to the mosque, and they did this, and they did this, and please. And you're praying them into the highest part of heaven you can possibly pray them to. That's what they believe. And so she's here reading about this, and she's going, wow, when you die, you're sleeping, you're just gone, you're just like resting? Whoa. She's never heard of this before. So she takes the booklet home to my dad, and she says, listen, I grew up a Muslim. I knew nothing about Christianity. There's some weird stuff in here. You should read this. And my dad begins to read it, and he goes, I've never heard of this. And they came to this conclusion that this probably was just a bunch of stuff. People were just pulling out of their hats. But then my mom said, there's these Bible references. We should go get a Bible. Call their bluff. I bet you they don't think that any of us would actually get a Bible and check this. And what's crazy is my parents knew that the Bible had authority. Even in their spiritual depravity, they knew if it was in God's word, that it meant something. That's what the Holy Spirit has done throughout history. He has maintained the sanctity of the Bible so that people throughout history can open it up and realize that there is powerful, life-changing truth in there, including my mom and my dad. So they go to the Christian bookstore. My dad said we bought an $11 Bible. I was just talking to him a few weeks ago about this on the phone. I said, Dad, I'm telling you your testimony story. Fill in some of the gaps. He said, well, we went to a Christian bookstore. We bought an $11 Bible. I remember that, and it was $11. I don't know why, but I remember that. And we took it home, and we began to study it. And in case you've forgotten what it's like to study the Bible for the first time, I'll tell you this is how it goes. When you want to find a passage that says Revelation chapter 10, verse 17, let's just say, you don't go to the end of the Bible. You and I do. If we want to go to Genesis, we go to the beginning. If we want to find Psalms and Proverbs, we go to the middle. We know that. They didn't know that. So they went to the index at the very front, and they found Revelation. Cool, page 1007. And then they turned the pages using page numbers. How many of us use page numbers to study the Bible anymore? You don't. They did. And they got to the page number, and then they found Revelation. There it is. That's what we've been looking for. We're halfway there. No, you're 1/3 of the way there. Because now you got to find the big number, and they found it, 10. Okay, now you got to find the little number, 17. Turn the page. There it is. And they began to read. And every time they found a passage they wanted to study, that's what they had to do. It was painful, it was arduous, it was slow, but guess what? They were hungry for the truth. It didn't matter to them. And little by little, as they began to read these passages straight out of God's word, and the Holy Spirit began to do what the Holy Spirit does best, their hearts were convicted. My dad told me, he says, we were so convicted on the Sabbath, immediately, the next Sunday, we were at a Sunday church. We sat through service. We went up to the pastor afterwards, and he was greeting us. Hey, your guests here, never seen you before. Yeah, listen, we've been reading that we're supposed to be going to church on Saturday. Do you guys have a Saturday service? No, we don't really do that anymore. This is why. Is there any church that has a Saturday service? These guys are like, I don't know of one. And so then they'd go home, and the next Sunday they'd go to another church. Hey, listen, we've been reading this. Can you show us where we're supposed to be having church on Sunday, because we're feeling like Saturday's supposed to be the day, but we haven't found the passage where it got changed. Help us. They were seriously seeking the truth. They were not trying to make a point. And these pastors are going, I can't help you. It's been changed. It's kind of a church thing. We celebrate Christ's resurrection. And that was not satisfactory to my parents. My dad said after several weeks of that, you know what we did? We just started celebrating Sabbath at home. We didn't know that there were churches that celebrated the Sabbath other than Jewish synagogues, and we knew we didn't want to be Jewish. I said, Dad, how long did you celebrate the Sabbath at home? He said, probably 2 months, 2 straight months. Okay, Dad, describe to me what Sabbath looked like, because this is really, really interesting. Well, we would read Scripture. We had the Bible, so we'd just find a Bible passage and we'd just read it. I said, did you guys sing hymns or anything? No, we didn't know hymns. We didn't have a hymn book. We knew no Christian songs. Come on, you're talking to a former agnostic and Muslim. He said, we'd get out our Sandy Patty cassette tapes. Mom bought a bunch of those. And we'd play Sandy Patty all day. If you don't know who Sandy Patty is, Google her when you get home. You'll see exactly, you will understand what our first Sabbaths were like as a family. And I said, did you have special food? Obviously, you didn't know about haystacks back then. He's like, no, Mom would make steak. He said steak was probably the most special thing we could have. We only saved it for special occasions, so she'd make steak. I didn't know about the health message. My parents' first Sabbaths in their home were the 3 S's, Scripture, steak, and Sandy Patty. And you know what? God was hovering over them and he was smiling. He smiled over my little family because he said, every little bit of light that I have shed into this home has been embraced to the fullest extent. Behold my kids. Over time, my parents received an invitation in the mail to a Revelation seminar at a local high school gymnasium. They looked at this handbill and they thought, Revelation and Daniel, those are some strange books. We'd like to go to this Bible study series. So they showed up night one. They sat in the back. My dad said, listen, if it feels too like a cult, too culty, we're out of here. And they sat in the back, and then the second night they came back and they moved a little forward. Third night, a little forward. My dad said by the time the series was ending, we were in the front row because he says we had all these questions we were writing down during the program. And we'd write down questions during the week when we weren't at the program, and then we'd just, right away, we'd get the pastor first. We'd nail him. As soon as he was coming down off the platform, we'd stand up, start machine gunning him with questions. And he was so patient to answer them. At the end of that 28-night series, my parents were baptized into the Seventh-day Adventist movement, never to ever leave again. Never. Never to look back. Still to this day, active members of the Seventh-day Adventist movement. And you know why? You know why I grew up in the church? Why I'm raising my kids in the church? Heather and I interacting with 22,000 people face-to-face every year just at my concerts, not including television. Because someone left a laundromat in a book behind. In a laundromat, they left behind this book. It's called Bible Study Helps. If you've never heard of it, go check it out. A little book behind in a laundromat saying, God, this is my purpose today. Do something with this book. There will be generations of people in heaven today because of that one simple act. So if people come up to me and they say, Scott, I don't really know that I have a purpose. I don't sing. I'm not good up front. I'm kind of an introvert. I have a lot of Moses excuses. I just tell them, can you leave a tract behind in a laundromat? Oh, I could do that. Anybody can do that. Then do it. Then do it. You guys have these glow tracts? I love these things. They're tiny. I keep them in my truck. When I go to the gas station, we can't do this in Oregon, of course, but everywhere else I go, I stick it, when I'm done pumping my gas, I stick it in the credit card swiper. So the next guy, he's got to get it out if he wants to pay for his gas. I really am praying that the next guy will have a story like this, where he said, you know what, I was having a rough day, and I went to, and this silly tract was in there, and I just tossed it in the seat of my truck. I was annoyed. A week later, I got that thing out, and I'm reading through it. And it changed my life. Guys, we're going to be, I know there are stories like this because I'm friends with one of the guys that publishes Glow Tracks. He's the publishing director for the Rocky Mountain Conference. I get to hear people's voicemails when they call in to the Glow voicemail number, and I get to hear their stories. It would blow your mind how many thousands of people are coming to the foot of the cross because somebody has left behind a Glow tract. So what is your purpose in life? God may call you to do something hard. He may call you pastoral ministry, guys. Pastor Diego, I'm going to say this. He has no idea I'm going to say this, but pastoral ministry for the pastor and the pastor's family, that is a difficult calling. I meet pastors all over the country for the last 21 years of music ministry. I've talked to them in their offices as they've been in tears, agonizing over their congregation. Your pastors love you. They care about you. And it's so difficult sometimes to be the leader of a flock because, as you know, you guys have been to board meetings. There's not always a consensus on things. Life is not always easy when you're in a leadership position because you really get everything. You get the blame for everything. Love on your pastor. Love on your pastor's family. Make their job, their calling easier. They're missionaries. Because just around the time that a pastor and his family gets used to the congregation and builds a good rapport and gets used to where the local Walmart is and where the local parks are to take Sabbath walks, just around the time you get comfortable, God says, hey, get up, pick up your stuff. I got a new place for you to go. And then a pastor has to do it all over again. That's not easy. I know I live that life in accelerated format. Sometimes God calls you to do hard things. But sometimes he just says, just leave a tract behind in a laundromat for me. I'll take care of the rest. Just do that. Can't wait to meet whoever that person is that left that tract behind and have a really long, amazing conversation with them. As I close with these last couple of songs, my prayer is that God will show you what your purpose is and that you will realize that with him behind you, there's nothing you can't do for him.
January 10th, 1962. We knew there was something wrong, but we did not know exactly what. doctor said, forget Rick. Put him away, put him in an institution. He's going to be nothing but a vegetable for the rest of his life. We cried a little bit. We talked, and we said, no, we're not going to put Rick away. We're going to bring Rick home and bring him up like any other child. We knew Rick was smart. We could tell by looking in his eyes. And when we talked to him, he was paying attention to what we were saying. So we wanted to get a computer built so Rick could communicate with us. Everybody came to our house that night for Rick to say his first words. And everybody was betting, what is the first words Rick is ever going to say? His mom saying, it's going to be, hi, Mom. And me, the dad, saying, oh, it's going to be, hi, Dad. Well, the Boston Bruins were going for the Stanley Cup, and the very first words Rick ever said was, go Bruins.
Dick is a military man, so he knows a thing or two about commitment. This time, he's just months removed from a heart attack. This gift that he gives to his son, or is it the other way around? Either way, it all started when Rick heard about a charity run for a paralyzed athlete. He asked Dad, and Dad said yes.
The gun went off, and we went off with all the other runners, and everybody thought that Rick and I would just go to the corner and turn around and come back. Well, we didn't. We finished the whole 5 miles, coming in next to last, but not last. And when we got home that night, Rick wrote on his computer, Dad, when I'm running, it feels like my disability disappears. So that was a very powerful message to me, that we finally found a sport that Rick could get involved in just like everybody else. Rick is my motivator. He inspires me. To me, he's the one out there competing, and I'm just loaning him my arms and my legs so that he can compete. There's just something that gets into me when I'm out there competing with Rick that I can't explain it, and we're able to go faster. And it's just an unbelievable feeling. Rick and I love the Ironman triathlon, to be out there competing with the best triathletes in the world, to be accepted to compete along with these triathletes. Just to be out there on that pier with all the other triathletes and then waiting in the water for that cannon to go off, it was just so exciting. The feeling coming down the finish line at Leahy Drive, it's just an awesome experience. With the crowd there, all the excitement, the noise, and the announcers announcing, all the adrenaline just gets flowing.
I may be disabled, but I live a very fulfilling life. And if someone takes the time to get to know me, they will realize that I am no different than anyone else.
Here he is. He graduated from public high school. He's graduated from college. He's out there competing in road races and triathlons. He lives a happier life probably than 95% of the population. Rick would tell you that, if he was physically able to do something, that he'd probably play basketball or football or hockey. But then he always says, no, the first thing he'd do is have me sit down in his wheelchair and he'd push me. It really makes me feel good that he appreciates, what I'm trying to do to help him out, and he'd do the same thing for me. Our message is, yes, you can. You can do anything you want to do as long as you make up your mind. You can do it.
If you have ever searched for the meaning of life, stop. The answer lies right here.
When I am down and oh my soul when troubles come and my heart burden be, and I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas, and I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. There is no life without its hunger. Each restless heart beats so imperfectly, but I look up and I am filled with wonder. Sometimes I think that I glimpse eternity, 'cause you raise me up so I can stand on mountains, and you raise me up, oh, to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be, 'cause you raise me up so I can stand on mountains, and you raise me up to walk on stormy seas, and I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas, and I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up to more than I can be.
Exodus 9:16. God is telling Moses, Moses, I have a message for Pharaoh. I want you to deliver these words to him. Pharaoh, I am God. I have raised you up for this very purpose, that I might show you my power and that my name may be declared in all the earth. God is telling Pharaoh, Pharaoh, I'm going to use you. You have a hard heart. You don't want to be used by me, but you're going to be. If we just came to our Father and said, God, I don't have the wealth or the might. I don't have the influence or the power that Pharaoh had, but I do have a willing heart. Please use me. God will do that. Heather and I have begun to make it a habit to together hold hands and pray and say, God, please give us a divine appointment today. As we've begun to pray that prayer, we've just built up a whole book of stories. The time we prayed that prayer, and we met a woman in LAX airport whose mom had just died. She had just gotten a phone call and she's crying in the corner of the airport, and we're able to sit there with her and pray with her and form a relationship that exists 7 years later. We prayed that prayer and we met a couple of young Mormon men on a bike path. We had this great conversation about God. They left asking questions. They left with a great controversy in their hands. I can tell you about the time just a few weeks ago, we were walking on our little bike path there in Gladstone and met this older couple who fell in love with the girls. Conversation led to another conversation about what I do and who Seventh-day Adventists are. And the next thing we knew, we got a knock on our bus door one day and they said, come have dinner with us. Complete strangers from the bike path. We went over to Hans and Doreen's house. We had a great evening, had prayer together. God sets these things up and we just tell him, just give me a divine appointment today. Between now and dead, I just want to leave a mark for Jesus, however he wants me to. That's all I want to do. I don't have much time. Let's be honest, we only have our lifetime. Between now and then, I want to leave a mark for him. So I'm going to ask us to sing this song as we close together. You guys have been patient. I know we've gone long, but this is a passion that we have as Seventh-day Adventist Christians. You're not just another denomination. We're a movement. Be proud to be a Seventh-day Adventist. Find a place that's dark. Shine a little light there, however God leads you to do it. Pastor's going to come up and he's going to close with a prayer, and he's going to close with a little appeal. If you want to support what Heather and I do as we travel, as we continue to share, he's going to talk to you about how you can do that. You're just going to mark your little envelope in such a way that they know that when you put it in the church, it's for us. You can put my name on it, just Scott, or however you want to mark it so they know. They're going to take care of it. If you're on the live stream and you want to support us, you can go to our website. It's my name. It's scottmichaelbennet.com. Don't Google Scott Bennett. You'll get some other rock star out there. It's not me. Some of you are going to Google it, I know. But ultimately, really what I want you to remember from today is this song. I want it to be stuck in your minds all week. I would like it to be stuck in your head all month. I want you to be whistling it and singing it at work. So I'm going to sing the 3 verses, and in between every verse is the chorus that you see on the screen. And if you'd be willing to, when I get to the chorus, just sing it with me as we close. So this can be your charge and your challenge to have a purpose in your life. There is a candle in every soul, some brightly burning, some dark and cold. And there is a spirit, and who brings the fire. He ignites the candle, yeah, and makes his home. Sing with me. So carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the helpless, confused and torn, and hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle, go light your world. Take your candle and go light your world. Amen. Frustrated brother, see how he's tried to light his own candle some other way. And see now your sister, she's been robbed and lied to. She still holds her candle, yeah, without a flame. So carry your candle,
light your world. Take your candle and go light your world. Now we are a family whose hearts are blazing. So let's raise our candles and light up the sky, praying to our Father in the name of Jesus. Make us a beacon in the darkest night. Carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the helpless, the confused and torn. Hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle, go light your world. Take your candle, go light your world. One last time. Carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the helpless, confused and torn, and hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle, go light your world. Take your candle, go light your